Hello, and welcome to a special episode of Google Developers Live with Google Maps and Android. I'm Mano Marks of the Maps Developer Relations team, and this week I'm teamed up with Fred Chung on the Android team.
Hello, everyone.
We'd like to talk to you about the new Google Maps Android API v2.
So yeah, we just launched Google Play Services. It's an update to Google Play Services. For those of you that aren't familiar with Google Play Services, it is a new platform through which the third-party developers, Android developers, can integrate with Google services like Google Plus, OAuth 2 authentication, and now they can also integrate with Panorama and Maps, the new Maps API through this service. And the good thing is that this service is backward compatible all the way back to Froyo or 2.2. And the beauty of this is that for users, as new updates become available, the users automatically get the new services on their devices. And for developers, all you have to do is to grab a thin client library to integrate with your Android project.
In this update, we added a number of interesting components. In particular, today we're going to talk to you about Google Maps Android API v2. In this new map library, we're making available to all Android apps the same experience that Android users get using the Google Maps app. You're going to get vector tiles, you can rotate and tilt the map, and these interactions are something that users are already familiar with. So if you just take a quick look here, you can see here we are in a tilted map view with 3D buildings. If I zoom in, you can see that I actually have some access to some indoor maps. So here we have Moscone Center West. I can also switch very quickly to terrain mode.
Very nice.
Or I can switch to hybrid satellite and vector data mode. And one of the really cool just call out features on this is you will notice that as I rotate this map, which I can do, rotate and tilt it, the labels all stay in the same direction. Even though this is a raster map, it's got a vector overlay on top of it.
So I don't need to turn my head. So essentially, the experience is just like Google Maps.
That's right. And anywhere I go, I can get traffic data. So whatever layer I'm looking at, I get an overlay of traffic if that's what I want to show to my users. Users are already familiar with. So if you just take a quick look here, you can see here we are in a tilted map view with 3D buildings. If I zoom in, you can see that I actually have some access to some indoor maps. So here we have Moscone Center West. I can also switch very quickly to terrain mode.
Very nice.
Or I can switch to hybrid satellite and vector data mode. And one of the really cool just call out features on this is you will notice that as I rotate this map, which I can do, rotate and tilt it, the labels all stay in the same direction. Even though this is a raster map, it's got a vector overlay on top of it.
So I don't need to turn my head. So essentially, the experience is just like Google Maps.
That's right. And anywhere I go, I can get traffic data. So whatever layer I'm looking at, I get an overlay of traffic if that's what I want to show to my users.
So I talked to a lot of developers, and I know that this update is much anticipated. I'm sure a lot of them will be thrilled about this update.
Yeah.
So from a coding perspective, this new library addresses a couple of developer concerns. It is now fragment friendly, which is a good thing, because this is one of the major concerns that we hear a lot from developers trying to use the old MapView library, since there are some limitations to it, right? It can only be hosted in a map activity, which is kind of limiting for a lot of developers. People have tried all sorts of tricks to make it work with fragments, but it's very messy. So the good thing is that it's now available, so feel free to update your app to this new API. So for today's show, there are two parts to it. In the first part, Mano will do some more additional demos to show off some of the features available in this API. And then we'll hang out with a couple of developers, Trulia and Expedia Hotels and Flights. Both of them have started using the API and to migrate their existing maps to this new API. So we're gonna listen to what they have to share with the audience.
Okay, so probably the best way to learn about the new API and what it can do is to see these awesome new features in action. So I've installed the Google Maps Android API demo app, that's a really long name, on this tablet, as you've been seeing, and I'll show you how the main features of the new API. The source code for this app is actually part of the Google Play Services package that you can get with the Android SDK Manager. We're planning to cover more technical details in future shows, but in the meantime, you can check out the code for the demo app to get a better feel for how the API works. So you'll see that there's actually a ton of demos here, and we're going to just show you a few of the really cool and interesting things that are new in the new maps. So here we have a sample app that shows you how the camera works. So because you have this sort of bearing and tilt of the map, you can also control the zoom and center of the map. This is something that you can do, not only your users can do through the UI, but you can also do programmatically. So if you'll see here, I'm looking at Sydney. Maps team is in Sydney, the engineering team, so that's why we always have these Sydney
I wonder why.
demos, right? So here I can go to Sydney, and you see this gets this nice, smooth, and quick transition here. Also, I can go to Bondi, which is a beach nearby, and you'll see how it does that nice, smooth animation, but also tilted and zoomed it at the same time and rotated the map.
It's kind of like the Google Earth experience.
Yeah,
too, right?
Yeah, it is very much like that. And then if I turn off animation, I can just go directly there. So these sort of things, you get also different kinds of animations built in for both zooming and moving in this for short hops as well.
Very nice.
Yeah. So the next thing I'm going to show you is ground overlays just really quickly. This is something that users of the JavaScript Maps API are familiar with, but you'll see here I've actually overlaid an old raster image on top of the map, and along with that I get this nice sort of tilting effect. So this is something you can use your geolocated, your georeferenced raster imagery, and then you can do things like control the transparency there. So it's a great way to showcase old and new data together.
So Manna, one quick question. Can you use any arbitrary images?
You could use it, yeah, you could put my face on your map if you really wanted to. Not that anybody would do that. I would really suggest you not do that, because that's going to be a little surprising for the users. Okay, so let's take a look at markers. You get new features with markers here. So first of all, you get the standard default info window. You can also customize the contents of the info window, so you get a little bit more interesting interaction there. But you can also customize the info window itself. So you see here it's got these sort of rounded corners. But not only that, your markers can be draggable. So here I'm just dragging that marker, and as I drag it, I get a on-marker drag end event, which then you can do something with. This is a great way for allowing people to collect data for you, or you could use this for positioning in games or anything like that.
All right.
So you can provide your own custom icons as well. And yeah, I think those are great new features in markers. Quickly just show you this fun one. You don't have to use our map tiles if you want. You can use this as a serving technology for your own map tiles.
So what are we looking at now?
So we're looking at the moon. So Google Maps has published tile overlays for the moon, and as you see, we have these raster images, and I can do some nice movement around using these raster tiles.
Cool.
I can turn them.
It's really cool that you can tap into the basic infrastructure for manipulating the UI while using your own overlay.
And
it would be an ideal tool for game developers, for example.
That's right, and you can do custom tiles, custom tile projections. You don't have to use the standard Mercator projection.
Nice.
Yeah. Okay, polygons. Polygons are new in this API, and you can see you've got lots of ways that you can control how polygons look and feel. So polygons are basically a line with fill. So you can change the fill hue here. You can change the fill alpha as well.
Great.
You can change the stroke width. And you'll see you also have nice little holes in your polygons and a lot of new features as well. We also have polylines, which are basically polygons without the fill in them. And those give you interesting features, like you can do geodesic polylines, so they match the curvature of the Earth rather than a direct straight line. And then finally, I wanted to demonstrate for you multiple maps. Now this is because maps are now in a fragment, or you can...
That's a big win.
It's a big win, right? So you can have, you no longer have to extend map activity. Maps can now be added to any activity, and you can add also add them to fragments. So you can see, and one of the results of that is you can do multiple maps in the same view.
That's really cool.
So that's nice if you want to do sort of side-by-side comparisons.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, great. Thanks for the demos,
Sure.
Menno. So now let's have a look at what some of the early adopters are doing with the API. Hello, we have invited Trulia on air today. We have two representatives from Trulia, Stephen and Alice. Stephen and Alice, do you guys want to do a quick introduction?
Sure. Thank you, Fred. Thanks for this opportunity. We're here to introduce Trulia. We have a great Trulia Android engineering team here. And what Trulia is, first of all, to set it up, we are a US residential property search site, and mobile is extremely important to us. Mobile is the largest, is the fastest growing part of our traffic right now. It's up over 140% year on year, and currently is over 30% of our traffic on a weekly basis. So we are really, mobile is very important to us, and Android particularly is a big part of that as well.
That's great. So you have a tablet app in Google Play Store. Well, you actually have multiple apps, and I understand that you have spent some time working with the new Maps API. And let's go ahead and have a look at what you've done with it, shall we?
Sure, let's do it.
So I've gone ahead and launched the tablet version, which looks great. I'm looking at San Francisco, downtown San Francisco. I see a bunch of properties, a bunch of expensive properties, rather.
Yes.
As I'm panning the map around, I noticed that you guys have incorporated the new API so that you can see the tilting as I zoom in. Closer and closer 3D buildings begin to pop up any minute. And in certain locations, you do also have the indoor maps available from the API, which is awesome. So as I click on one of the markers, a pop-up shows up, showing me some property. So I clicked on it, a pane shows up with some more property details. So that's kind of cool.
Yes, this is this is what users really enjoy about us. They can look for properties, they can see photos. We have big photos in a lot of cases. And then if they want, they can contact a real estate agent right from that property page that you're looking at.
That's great.
So we really focus on making that a great experience for them.
Right. And I noticed that you guys have incorporated a couple of interesting features. The first one that I like to touch on is the layer, custom layer information, right? As I click on the layer icon, a pop-up comes up, and I'm going to go ahead and click on crime layer. So can you walk us through a little bit on how the crime data layer is rendered?
Yep.
It looks pretty visually appealing right now.
Yeah, we use the new like tile overlay that new API provide that we're easily just give URL of our tiles and then you will render it nicely on the map.
Cool. And I also understand that there's a feature, there's a pretty cool feature where you can hand draw an arbitrary polygon, an arbitrary shape, and then the app is going to do a search based on the hand drawn area, right?
Draw search. You can draw your own search in the area you want, and we really try to focus on giving you the inside scoop. So not only property details, but the crime, as you looked at, school attendance owed, zip code boundaries, and things around the area that users are interested in when they're looking for a property.
Yeah, it's very interactive. Good job, guys.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. So can you maybe share a little bit more information on your experience using the new Maps API from an engineering standpoint? What sort of effort is needed to
It's the new Map API provide a lot of like new features that we're looking for before. Like for example, the support map fragment that we no longer need to use a revised version our own. We can use the default one, and the camera hand event change is great, that we don't need to handle the touch event and figure out if map's moving or not. The custom window, like info window that like is handled nicely, tied with the marker, so it's great. Yeah, these are the great features that it's the migration. It's about a week or two effort to make our app really stable and.
Well, that's great. So I mean, you mentioned Fragment. I personally anticipate that Fragment would be one features that a lot of Android developers would be excited about. So that's great. So do you have a separate phone app and a tablet app, or what's your model like?
Yeah, we have two form factors, one for X large devices and one for others. So X large device will be 10-inch tablet and larger.
Right, but you are using one APK for the two form factors, right? Got it. So is this app available with the new Maps API?
Yes, yeah, this app is available as soon as the new Maps API is public. This app that you're looking at today will be available. All of our apps are free. We actually have 3 top-rated Android apps, and this is our main app. It'll be available as soon as the Google Maps API is available.
Awesome. Cool. So I look forward to seeing you upgrade the other apps to the new Maps API.
That'll be coming soon.
All right, great. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Hello. We have invited Dan Liu from Expedia Hotels with us here on air.
Hi.
Yeah, so Dan is the Android developer behind Expedia Hotels and Flight application and the Flight Track application, right? So he's here to share with us some of his experience using the new Maps API. I understand that, Dan, you guys are have started looking into the API and have started incorporating the API into the 2 apps that I just mentioned, right?
Yeah, it's been working out great so far. It's really jumped past the previous version of the Maps library.
That's great. So shall we do a quick walkthrough of the application? Let's start with
Sure.
Expedia Hotels and Flights. My understanding is that you just recently launched an update to this beautiful app, right? And then you're in the process of updating the map portion of it with the new Maps API. Right. So I'm at the landing screen, and I'm scrolling through, and it's what seems to be an infinite list view of beautiful, pretty pictures. And let's get into the hotels portion. Can you walk us through what's available there?
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty simple idea, which is simply that on the hotel side you can search for a location, and there is the traditional list view of just hotels, but if you click the button on the bottom right, it will switch you over to a map view version of the application.
Oh, there you go. I can see in this demo version you have you're using the vector-based map so that I can twist and turn and tilt the tiles.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. And right now I'm trying to search for hotels in San Francisco. So it brought me to San Francisco with a nice animation, flyover animation, right? So that's something that's supported by the new API.
Yep.
Right. So as I zoom closer into the clusters of hotel in downtown San Francisco, I think so. I can click on the markers as you would expect, and are these custom markers?
Yeah, we have our own assets for those, but we also played around with the different hues that you can build into the app as well.
Do you have an example of a custom view, or that's still something that's in the works?
I think it's still in the work, but I did play around a bit with. There's this adapter interface if you want to create your own info window pop-ups or info window content.
Right.
And I played around with that for a bit, but I haven't actually used it yet.
Right. Okay. Cool. And as I'm panning around downtown for certain retail stores, it's showing me the indoor map for those locations, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's really cool to have all the features that like the current Google Maps app has in our own app.
Right. So, so now that you've taken a look at the API, what are some of the features that interest you, that you are excited about?
I think a lot of the things I'm excited about are just all the things that with the old map view we had to roll on our own. So for example, we used to make our own pop-up bubbles. We used to have to write our own draw routines and to lay over all of the like lines or whatever we wanted on the map. And now all that stuff is built into the library and it's just a lot easier to use.
That's great. And I noticed that as you zoom closer into the map, 3D buildings start to pop up left and right, which is kind of cool also. It gives the user some visual cues of their orientation.
Yeah, and I mean, with hotels, I feel like the map's a core part of the experience. Like, it's incredibly important to see where you are in a map and what hotels are nearby, or if you're going to visit someone else, you want to see all the hotels that are nearby where they're living. And so an improved map experience, it really makes a big difference to users.
Right, definitely. Shall we take a quick look at your other application?
Sure.
FlightTrack. So I just launched FlightTrack. I have a saved route. I clicked on it, and I have the start time, and this flight is in progress. And I clicked into the map view. It shows me a flight between San Francisco and JFK. So
yeah, so for this one, for the Expedia Hotels, we're mostly just using markers and info windows, but here we're really using a whole array of features. So for example, it looks like today there's a whole lot of weather around kind of the South Belt right now, and so we're using a ground overlay for that. And actually one of my favorite things, we used to have to download the bitmap and then add alpha transparency on our own, and now the ground overlay, I can just make it transparent right from the API itself.
Cool.
And we're also using polylines to represent the flight path. And actually, one of the cool things there is it supports geodesic polylines right out of the box, which is one of those things that before we had to calculate by hand all the different ways of doing the shortest distance on a Mercator projection, and now we just get that in the library as well.
That's great. It sounds like you're getting a number of features for free in this update.
Yeah, a whole bunch of them.
Right. Yeah, I'm just looking at the weather information that you have added on the overlay. It looks pretty cool. All right. So Dan, one question is that from an engineering standpoint, like what sort of effort is involved when you need to incorporate the new API?
Well, I think initially you need to do a lot of reading of the documentation because the new API is really nothing like the old map view. I mean, for one thing, it's fragment based, it's modern, it's the whole itemized overlay paradigm is out the window. It's completely different. And so it took a bit of time to read through all that, but ultimately the new library is just so much easier to use that it really only took, I think, 2 days to convert our existing apps to using the new library.
That's great. That's great. So I assume you are planning to launch soon these apps.
Yeah, as soon as we get a chance to really update and polish it and make sure that there's no issues just lingering around that we haven't tested properly yet.
Yep. All right, cool. Yeah, I look forward to seeing the updates on Google Play.
Yeah.
All right, thank you very much.
Have a nice day.
All right, thanks. Bye. Good stuff. I wanted to say thank you to our friends from Trulia and Expedia for sharing their feedback.
Yeah, that's
so
great.
for the developer audience out there, I bet you really wanted to check out the new APIs. You can get it now by downloading the latest Google Play services from your Android SDK manager. Play around with the API and let us know what you think. We look forward to seeing the kinds of innovation that you can do with the API. Thank you.
Great. Thanks.